Have you ever been shocked by a strong Christian who unexpectedly falls into sin and really disappoints you? I mean, periodically in the news, you hear about strong Christian leaders who we greatly admire and respect who fall into sin, and then they're discredited, they lose their ministry, they lose their career, and they lose their family and their marriage as well. Now, how is that possible? Because it's such a disappointment when we've heard these leaders explain and teach the proper biblical moral boundaries. So how is it that they could just fall off the cliff and just ignore those moral boundaries that they preached for so long? Well, here's the reason. It's emotional baggage. You see, we've all been raised in imperfect homes by imperfect people in an imperfect world, and our emotional baggage fills with painful life events and the conclusions that we reach about those events. And so if you have painful events in your past, you could be left with unresolved emotional pain and lies that you believe about yourself and others that hurt. Now, as long as you have unresolved hurts and lies, that's ammunition that Satan can use to torment you and keep reminding you and hurling those memories at you to keep you in emotional pain. Well, emotional pain is not quiet, it's not silent, and it's always crying out to be relieved. So it's perfectly possible that someone could become a Christian, their sins are forgiven, but they still have emotional baggage and unresolved emotional pain, which is constantly gnawing at them. Well, as you continue over the years, Satan wants to stoke that fire and magnify that pain. And then what he does to try to trap you is he dangles a sinful temptation in front of you saying, this will relieve your pain. So he turns up the heat to make you more uncomfortable, to make that pain more intense, to remind you of those lies, the painful lies you believe about yourselves and others. And then he tempts you with, this will relieve your pain. Now, initially, the strong Christian will say, no, that's wrong, that's sin. I will definitely not consider that. But as the pain increases and over time, as Satan continuously stokes that fire, the temptation becomes a greater and greater possibility. And then, as the pain gets really intense, it's possible that the emotional pain will drive a person to fall into temptation. Satan then knocks them out of their game and they crash and burn. You see, intellectual barriers of morality and faith can easily be overcome by intense emotional pain. Because emotional pain is like a volcano that just comes surging up and can blast through intellectual moral barriers. So what's the solution? Well, the solution to live a consistent moral Christian life is to resolve your baggage, get rid of that emotional pain, remove those lies, and be filled with God's truth and God's emotional healing. So how do you do that? You need to talk to someone about pain. How do you even know if you have unresolved pain and baggage? Well, look for times that you overreact to situations and your reaction is more intense than the people around you. Also, too, be aware if temptations are becoming more intense and more frequent and more attractive. Those are bad signs that there's emotional pain that's still unresolved. So talk to someone, talk to a friend, talk to a pastor, talk to a counselor. You can even talk to me in a coaching appointment, but don't sit on it. Satan wants you to ignore it, sweep it under the rug so he can continue to torment you and then tempt you. So to live a transformed life, you need to get rid of your emotional baggage so you can walk with God consistently. Now I want to hear from you. How have you resolved your emotional pain to avoid these kinds of temptations? Just leave your comments in the box below. And if this is your first visit here, you need to get my free self-assessment guide. And to do that, just subscribe to my weekly email newsletter by filling out the subscription form, which you know is always right there. And I'll talk to you again next week, but this week, address those emotional pain issues.